Hey everyone, my name is Abhishek and today we are going to create this. So this Product Dolly Zoom animation is done entirely using Blender and it's very easy to create. Not only this, I will also share some tricks using which you can make scenes like these render a little faster. So let's see how to create this. Alright, so in order to create this kind of animation, we need a product. So for this one, I'm going to use these headphones, but it's completely up to you. You can use whatever product you want. You can even use text if you like. But for this one, I'm going to use these. So these are designed by Christy and this is available for free. So you can just download it from Sketchfab. So you can just click over here and from here you can download whatever format you want. I'm going to use this FBX file. So once you have downloaded this, you can open up Blender and you are ready to go. Alright, so right now I'm in Blender and before we begin, at this corner you will be able to see all the keyboard shortcuts that I am pressing in case I forget to mention anything. So I'm using this 3.5 version, but it's completely up to you. You can pick whatever version you want. So for this one, I'm going to first select everything by pressing A, then X to delete. Now we are going to import our model. So for that, I'm going to go under File, go to Import. Now you can import the model in whatever format you have downloaded. So I'm going to use these FBX. So just click on that. Now just navigate to wherever you have downloaded the file. Just select this and click on import. So here you can see it has imported our model. And right now it's very small. So we can just simply press S to just scale this up. Something like that. So here you can see we have this model. So right now you can see that it is divided into individual parts. So I'm going to quickly combine everything because we don't need individual parts. So for that we can just simply press A to select everything. After that you can press Ctrl J or you can go to Object. From here you can just simply click on Join. Now you can see that it will create a single mesh which we have over here. Let me just quickly select this and I'm going to call this headphone. Perfect. So here we have our model. Now again it's completely up to you. You can use whatever product you want. You can even use a text as well. So first we are going to create our animation and then we will proceed forward to creating our scene. So for that I'm going to add a camera quickly. So press Shift A, let's add a camera. And on this one we are going to change a couple of things. So let's press N to reveal the transform option. I'm going to set the X value to 90. Y we can set this to 0 and Z we can set this to 0 as well. So here we have this camera. We can also move this little bit forward or backwards, something like that. Now you can press numpad 0 to get inside this camera. Now at this point you can define the dimensions of your final video. So you can just simply go under the scene settings and from here you can just change it to whatever you want. You can set this to 1080 by 1920 if you want to have a vertical format. But for this one I'm going to stick to this 1920 by 1080. So here we have our scene. Let me just quickly add a cube. So press Shift A, let's add a mesh, let's go to cube. And let's press numpad 0 to get out of this camera. Now I'm going to select this cube, press G, Z and let's move this little bit down. Or we can do one more thing. We can instead move our headphones up. So let's select the headphones, press G, Z and let's move them up to something like that. Now we can go inside the camera and now we can just play around with the Z of the camera. So let's select the camera and I'm going to let's select this camera and I'm going to play around with the Z position so that we have this sort of view. Now just place it wherever you want your headphones to be. So I want them to be somewhere around here. So yeah, I think this is looking perfect. So we are going to play around with the position of this camera and the focal length in order to get the dolly zoom effect. So let me just show you what I mean. So let's open this up and we are going to add some keyframes over here. So in the beginning, I'm going to just select this camera and let's go under the camera setting and I'm going to change its focal length from 50 to 16. Now you can see that it will make itself white. So we can just zoom in a little bit using this Y slider. So I'm going to just set it to something like -1.2. Now we can also play around with the Z position. So let's place it over here. So I think this is looking fine. Once you're done with this, you can right click and click on insert single keyframe. So we have added the keyframe for position. Also, let's add a keyframe for the focal length. So let's right click and click on insert keyframe. Now let's move our timeline indicator and let's go to somewhere around 60. And I'm going to change the position. So I'm going to just move it far away. So let's set this to something like -20. Now you can right click and click on insert single keyframe. Now we can select the camera and let's go under the focal length and I'm going to just increase this quite a bit. So it's completely up to you. You can just set it to whatever you want. I'm going to set this to something like 250. Now right click, insert single keyframe. Now if I play back, here you can see we are able to see the dolly zoom effect. which we have created. Now again, if you want to do it little bit extreme, then you can just make these really high and the initial value to be really low, but it's completely up to you. For this one, I'm going to stick with 16 and 250. So we are pretty much done with our animation, and our next step is to set up our scene. Now this is completely up to you. You can create whatever type of scene you want. You can have a modern scene like furniture and everything, or you can have some random shapes, whatever you want. But for this example, I'm going to create a natural scene. So I'm going to have some plants, some rocks and grass over here. So for that, I'm going to use a free add-on called Biome Reader. Now it's a very powerful add-on which has a complete library of vegetation. You can have plants, trees, whatever you want, and it's completely free. So if you want to learn more about this add-on, then you can check out this tutorial of mine. In this, I have explained how to use this add-on, and also I have provided the resources on how to install this. So you can check out this one. So after you have installed the Biome Reader, you can quickly access it by simply going over here. In case you are not able to see this, then you can press N. From here you can see we have this Biome Reader. Now there are two ways in which you can access that. You can either do it from here, you can just select whatever object you want. Then after that you can just create the biomes. Or you can also use the assets library, which will be automatically generated once you install this add-on. So we are going to use both the methods. So let me show you what I mean. So first I'm going to just simply press N because we are not going to use this. So let's add a plane for now. So press Shift A, let's add a plane, something like that. Now press G, Z, and let's move this up a little bit. Now I'm going to press S to scale this up quite a bit. Let's go to somewhere around here so that we can see what we are doing. So we have our plane. And we are going to first open up the assets library. So for that you can click over here. Let's go under the asset browser. And from here you can see we have a bunch of different assets which are automatically installed once you install the Biome Reader plugin. And you can see we can just simply pick them up whatever you want, and it's quite easy to use. So first we are going to add a rock on which our headphones will be placed. So let's go under the debris, and from here you can see we have tons of different rocks. So I'm going to use this one. So all you have to do is just simply click and just drag. So you can see that Blender will automatically place it onto the surface, something like that. So here you can see we are able to see our model. Let's press numpad 0 to get out of this camera. Here you can see we have this rock. Now I don't need this cube, so I'm going to select this, press X to delete this. Instead I'm going to select this rock and press S to scale this up quite a bit. Now let's position it up. So let's press numpad 0. You can just simply click on this X to get the side view. Now we can press G and just move it and just place it wherever we have our headphones. So let's place it over here, something like that. Now let's go to the front view. So you can press numpad 1, and or you can just simply click over -y. Now let's press G, X, and let's place it over here. So here you can see our headphones are placed on top of this. Let's press numpad 0 to see this. Now you can play around with the rotation of this. So press N and let's go to item, and now you can play around with its rotation however you want. So I'm going to just place it over here. Let's play around with its position, something like that. Now I'm going to select the plane and I'm going to press G, Z, and let's move this down a little bit so that we are able to see our rock. Again, just play around with its position. Now let's add our timeline so that we can view our animation as well. So you can just go on to this area and you can just simply click and drag, and it will give you this area. Now from here we can switch this to timeline so that we can just navigate it around. So here you can see we have this rock and we have all the animations already applied. So our next step is to add some trees and plants over here. So again, for that we can use this library. So let's go under the bushes, and you can see we have a bunch of different ones. So let's pick one of these. So I'm going to pick this one. Let's click and drag. So here you can see that it will load up, and here you can see we have this bushes. Now let's place it wherever you want. So I'm going to just place it over here. So let's play this out. You can see that it will go out of this frame because we are zooming in. Perfect. So let's add one more plant over here. So for that you can go under dryland, and we have this grass. So I'm going to use this one. Let's drag it over here. Let's press S, and I'm going to just scale this up quite a bit. Let's place it somewhere in the background. Perfect. So here you can see we have this grass. And let's play around with a couple of other elements as well. Let's add more bushes. So I'm going to pick this one. Let's drag it over here. Now I'm going to place it somewhere in the front of this, and I'm going to make this appear in the final position. So let's place it over here. Let's just play around with its position. So here you can see that we have this grass coming in and it looks perfect. So let's add some trees over here as well. So you can scroll down, and from here you can see we have these trees. So let's pick one of these. So let's pick this one. So I'm going to just click and drag and just place it wherever you want. And you can see that we have added the tree. Right now it won't be visible because we have to change the rendering engine to cycles. So we can just play around with its position later on. Let's quickly enable the rendering options. So for that, I'm going to just enable the rendering from here. So just click on this icon to go to the render view. Now it will take some time to load up everything. Now we are not going to use Eevee, so let's go under the rendering engine, and from Eevee we are going to change this to cycles, but it's completely up to you. If you want to use Eevee, then you can do that. Let's click on cycles. So here you can see now we are able to see our tree, and let's play around with the couple of these settings. So first I'm going to set this from CPU to GPU compute. Perfect. So we have this tree, and let's press numpad 0 to get inside the camera. Now we can select this, press G, or you can just play around with these over here as well. Its position to wherever you think it looks good, something like that. Let's play around with its position. Now if I play back, here you can see it zooms in, something like that. And let's go out of this camera, and right now it's quite big, so I'm going to use a different one for this. So let's press X to delete this, and I'm going to use a different one. So let's pick this one. So I think this is much better. It's quite smaller. So let's make this into the scene. So let's just pick a point, and let's press S to scale this up. Now let's go to the beginning, and you can see that it's quite small. So we can just play around with its position. So let's make this closer. Let's make this up to something like that. Perfect. Yeah, I think this is looking fine. If I zoom in, here you can see we are able to see this tree, but it's not visible much, so we can just move it a little bit closer. We can also select this one, and let's move this closer as well. So I think this is looking fine for me. So we have this sort of scene. Now let's add some lighting to see what we are creating. So for that, I'm going to change this to shader editor. Perfect. Now we are going to switch this from object to world, and over here we have this. Now you can probably zoom in. Now we are going to add some nodes. So you can press Shift A, and you can search for sky texture and just click over here. Now you can plug this color into this color, and right away you can see that we are able to see some really nice lighting. And there are a couple of things that you can play around. You can play around with the rotation of the sun. Let me just quickly zoom in, and from here you can play around with the rotation. So you can just rotate the sun to make the light come from an angle, and it's completely up to you. You can pick whatever angle you want. So I think this side angle looks good. Now you can play around with the strength as well, depending upon how much you want. So let's make this something like 0.5 maybe. Or let's set this to 0.6. So I think this is looking fine. Now you can play around with the sun size. So you can see that we have these shadows. Now if you want to make them harsh, then you can just set this to 0. Now if you want to make them smaller, then you can just increase this quite a bit. Now you can see that the shadows are much softer. But for this one, I'm going to just set this to 0.5 because I want a little bit of harsh shadows. Or maybe we can just set this to 3.6. Yeah, I think this is looking much better. So here you can see we have our scene. Now let's play around with a couple of these settings. So you can see we have this sun elevation. So you can just play around with that in order to change the timing of the sun. So let's make this somewhere around here so that we have this very nice yellow sort of lighting. Perfect. So I think this is looking good. Now there are a couple of these parameters as well. So you can play around with the air. You can just make this denser or lighter, however you want, but I'm going to set this to 1. So dust, you can just set this to whatever you want. And if you want to have blue sky, then you can set the ozone really high. but otherwise you can just leave it to default. So I'm going to set all of these to default as well. Now let's quickly fix this ground and let's add some grass to this. Now you can press numpad 0 to get out of this camera, and you can see that here we have our scene. Let's just quickly switch back to the solid view. Now you will notice that we are not able to see all of this ground plane while looking through the camera. So if I go inside the camera, you can see that we are not able to see this region. So this won't be rendered in the final output. So we are going to just change this. So let's select this and I'm going to quickly change its position. So let's place it somewhere around here. Perfect. Now let's open this up. So let's go to the ending. So you can see that we are not able to see any of that. Perfect. So let's place it over here. So just play around with its position. Now you can see that we have this area as well. So this will not be rendered. The region which is inside this rectangular box will be rendered. So we are going to get rid of this as well. So for that you can just simply select this. Let's zoom out. You can press tab. Now you can select this endpoint and you can just make it come closer. So you can just play around with its exposition to make this closer, something like that. And we can do the same thing from here as well. So let's select this point and I'm going to just move this closer. Perfect. But now you can see that we have this area empty. So we can just extend this corner. So we can press numpad 0 to get out of this. So let's select this one. Let's press numpad 0 to get inside the camera. Now we can just extend it so that we are able to cover up this area only. So we can select this endpoint and just play around with its exposition till we have covered everything. Perfect. So here you can see we have covered the area which is visible inside this camera. Now you can press tab again to get out of the edit mode. Perfect. So here you can see we have this scene and we have extended our plane. Now we can play around with the biome reader to add some grass to this. So for that we can just simply select this and let's go under the biome reader, and from here you can just simply select this emitter and you can just pick whip and you can just pick this plane which we have created, or you can just simply select the plane which we have over here. Now once you have selected this, you can click on open biomes and it will open up the library which you have installed, and you can see that we have bunch of different options to choose from. Now from here you can pick whatever type of grasses you want. So you can see that we have bunch of different options, and let's scroll this down. So you can see that we have some grasses over here. So you can pick whatever you want, and for this one I'm going to just select this one. So in order to add this, all you have to do is just click on this plus and you can see that it will start importing, and here you can see it has imported. So we can just probably close this down. And right now you can see that it's quite big. Now there's one more thing that you have to take care of. Make sure that you have applied all the transformations that you have done. So you can see that we have this plane selected, and you can press Ctrl A, and from here just apply the scale. And right away you can see that we have grasses which are of normal size. So make sure to apply the scale, otherwise the grasses will be very big. So we have everything. Now we can select this. Now you can see that the grasses are too much and we don't want this much. So we can probably select this and let's go under the density, and I'm going to change this. So let's set this to something like 3, and let's select the grass number 1 which is over here, and I'm going to set this to 3 as well. Now let's press numpad 0. So here we are inside the camera, and you can see that we are able to see the grass, and we are also able to see some patches. So we can fix these patches manually because we don't need this much of grass, otherwise your system will be very slow. So let's first go inside the rendered view to see what we have created so far. So if I click over here, you can see we are able to see some grasses. Now there's one more thing that you can do. You can select this plane, and instead of white, we can just change it to a little bit more natural color. So we can go under the objects, and from here just click on new, and the base color I'm going to just set this to this really nice brown color, dark brown, something like that. Now you can see that it has nicely blended in, and we can change a couple of these properties as well. We can increase the roughness, and specular we can just set this to lower, and now we can probably make this a little bit more darker, something like that. Now let's fix these patches which are easily visible. So for that we can again go back to the assets library. So let's open the asset library, and from here we can select a bunch of different options. We have these grasses over here as well. So if you want to use them, you can just pick whatever you want. Now before you add any of these grass, there is one more thing that you can do. You can select this plane, and from here you can see that we have these grass, and you can see that we have this option for randomize, and if you click on that, you can see that Blender will automatically randomize these grasses, and you can just find somewhere we have lesser patches. So I think that this is looking fine. Let's select this one and let's just click on randomize. So you can see that it will automatically distribute them so that we have much better results. So yeah, I think this is looking fine because we have only a couple of areas over here. So I think this is fine. So in order to get rid of this, all you have to do is just simply select the grass model and just simply place it wherever you want. Something like that. Now you can press S to scale this up. Let's go under the items and you can just play around with their position to hide these patches. Let's place it over here. Perfect. Now you can press Shift D to duplicate this. Just click and we can move the second copy to somewhere around here so that we have filled this area. Now you can play around with its rotation however you want. And let's go under the solid view to view this better. And we have this patch over here. So you can see that we have fixed that with this grass. Now again you can select this, press Shift D, just click. Now we have one patch over here, so we can just play around with the position, something like that. So you can see that we have fixed that one as well. So we have a little bit over here. Again you can just select this, press Shift D, just click and just move it wherever you have these patches of grasses, something like that. Now here you can see we have covered most of them. You can just leave little bit of area visible to show some ground, something like that. But again, if you want to cover them as well, then you can just simply move the grasses to there as well. So we are pretty much done with our scene, and our next step is to add some really nice sky or background. But if you want to use this one which we have right now, then you can do that. But if you want to add a really nice background or the sky, then you can use this trick. So for that we can use an image file. So I have downloaded a couple of these images from Unsplash, and these are completely free and you can use whatever you want depending upon your scene, and you can pick whatever you like. So I'm going to use this one because we have a little bit of orangish or yellowish light over here which we have in our scene as well, so we can use this image. So let's see how to do that. So for that, let's switch to the solid view. Now you can press numpad 0. Now you can press Shift A and let's go under the image and just click on image as planes. Now just select whatever image you want to use. So let's select this one, just click on import. And here you can see it has imported it. So it's quite small, so you can press S to scale this up quite a bit, something like that. Now you can go back to the rendered view to see your image. Here you can see we have this image. Now we can select this and let's move this quite back, something like that. So you can see that it's quite behind. So let's place it somewhere around here. Now you can press numpad 0 to get inside the camera. Now we can select this image, press S to scale this up quite a bit. After that, you can just play around with its position however you want. So let's just place it a little bit down, something like that. So here you can see we have this very nice background at the back. And yeah, I think this is looking fine. We can do one more thing. We can select this and let's change this to shader editor. From here, we can change a couple of these settings. First, I'm going to lower down the specular and I'm going to set this to all the way to something like 0.1 or something. And here we have this image. Now you can play around with its scale and position. So let's quickly go to somewhere around 60 and see what we are seeing over here. So I'm not liking this background, so we can just place it something like that. Let's move it down as well, something like that. So I think this is looking much better. Now if we go back to the very beginning, here you can see we are able to see the background as well. So I think this is looking fine. So this is the first and this is the last frame. Just make sure that this looks good in both the frames. Now the background is looking fine, and we can probably make this a little bit more bright by just simply increasing the specular. So here we are done with everything. Now there is one more thing that you can do to really enhance this up. So let's select this camera, and if you go under the camera settings, we have this option for depth and field. So just enable this, and under the focus object, we are going to just select the headphones. So let's select the headphones, which we have over here. Now you can play around with the f-stop value. So you can just simply set this to something like 1 so that we have a really nice blur in the background. And in case you want to have more blur, then you can just simply lower this down to something like this. Now you can see that everything will be blurred out and only these headphones will be in focus. But for this one, I'm going to set this to something like 1 so that we have little bit of things visible and we have this in focus completely. So we are pretty much done with our everything. So our last step is to render this out. Now before you start rendering this in cycles, I would recommend you to render this out in Eevee so you can have an idea of how the animation are looking. So this is a pro tip. If you want to render out something and you want to check out the animations only, then you can just render them out in Eevee because it's quite fast. And once you're happy with the movement and everything, then you can switch back to the cycles and you can just render it out. So for rendering, you can go under the rendering samples. So from here we can change the max sample to something like 32 or 16, whatever you want. So let's set this to 16. Now if you have a more powerful PC, then you can just set this to 64 or 128, whatever you think, and make sure that this denoise is checked. Otherwise you will have a lot of grains in the render. Rest of the things will remain same. After that, you can just go under the options, and from here you can just set the range. So I'm going to just set this to 60 because we are rendering only the 60 frames. After that, just set the output to wherever you want to save this. For file format, I'm going to select the PNG, RGB alpha. Just make this 16-bit, and compression we can set this to 0. So once you are done with these settings, you can render this out. So for that, you can just go to render and just click on render animation, and after that Blender will go to each frames and it will start rendering out. So this is how you can create this really cool Dolly Zoom product animation. And the best thing is that you can just use whatever product you want, and you can do some really nice lighting and add some really nice assets using the biome reader, and you can create something like that. So the project files for this tutorial is available on Patreon. So if you're supporting me over there, then you can download it from there. And if you're not, then you might consider it because you will get access to the tutorial project files and exclusive templates that are available only on Patreon. So with that being said, my name is Abhishek and I'll see you in the next one.